Alright, so a new spell set came out and the 4 spells are quite alright. In this video I'm going to talk about them and give my opinion on them while providing 2 grades for them. One for how good they seem to be overall and 1 grade for how much investment you really need to see payoff for the spell. So let's begin. So let's talk about the first spell in the new set, Reviving Phoenix. This spell allows you to revive your first moving class of unit. At rank 1 it targets your earliest warrior that died. The spell activates before the 12th turn. Ranking up the spell will allow you to target your magician or defender while also decreasing the cast startup of the spell. Reviving Phoenix is a bit wonky to use. The first thing to understand about the spell is how it revives your units. For these examples I'm going to assume that Phoenix is targeting your warriors. When Reviving Phoenix activates, it will look for your earliest moving warrior among the currently dead ones and revive that one. You actually do not need to lose your first moving warrior. So long as you have any dead one, it will just revive that one. The turn order of the revived unit is exactly the same. If Phoenix revives a unit after the turn has passed, they will have to wait until next round to attack. If Phoenix revives a unit before they actually take their turn, then they can still attack on that round. Revived units don't retain the buffs that they had when they died. They only get their permanent and before battle skills reactivated. With that out of the way, let's actually talk about the spell. The spell was pretty hyped up in many ways. The idea of reviving your own units seemed insanely strong, but this spell turned out to be fairly clunky to use. The main issue with Phoenix is the value that you're getting out of it. Reviving one unit isn't as strong as it sounds because that unit still only gets to move once per round. There's a lot of situations where the unit can revive just to be hit by something else before it can move again. Another issue is that the unit that ends up reviving may not provide much value. You can end up reviving an ally that just ends up trading with another unit. The idea of playing around a unit dying is also very unintuitive in anything that is in Guild War. In regular arena you can have some situations where you do not lose any unit by the time Phoenix activates, thus wasting the spell. Playing around the idea of losing your units is kind of strange, but Phoenix is more of a backup plan than a main strategy, I suppose. Phoenix is useful in World Arena, where the value of your legends are higher due to being able to only utilize 3 of them. Being able to revive a crucial or high value unit can still be very clutch. Phoenix is perhaps most useful in Guild War to retain onto units that you know will die due to the enemy Gungnir or Vulcan. The issue with Phoenix in Guild War is that it doesn't really help you with turn counts unless you really use it well. Reviving that Alex so you can take down more units may help with turn counts, but Phoenix will be competing with other great Guild War spells like Viper, Gungnir, Orochi, and the newly added Iron Mayden for a slot. From my experience, Phoenix is a lot less valued than those spells generally. A situation has to be very specific for Phoenix to be the right choice. Phoenix is pretty lukewarm to me. In terms of overall usefulness, I give it a B. In terms of bang for the buck, however, it's an S for sure. Phoenix is very useful right at rank 1 since it revives a warrior and activates as late as possible to ensure that the warrior is dead by then. The issue with ranking up Phoenix is that if it activates too soon, it's very possible that the corresponding class of units are still alive and no one is revived. My suggestion is to keep it at rank 5 minimum if you plan to invest on it, but rank 1 is fine if you use warrior compositions. So the next spell I'm going to cover is Enlightening Amita. This spell applies taunt and incoming damage reduction to your last moving class of a unit. At rank 1, Amita activates before the 5th turn and lasts for 4 turns while applying taunt and damage reduction to your last moving mage. Ranking up this spell allows you to target your last moving warrior and defender while increasing the duration of the spell and shortening its startup. Amita's incoming damage reduction is at 50% and will reduce every incoming damage source, including direct damage, onto that unit. Amita works like a taunt, so the enemy concentrated fire debuff and Vulcan spell has priority over Amita. Amita overall is kind of strange. This is the first spell that we have that targets the last moving unit of your composition. Amita's strength lies in that it can create a taunter on your team without ever having to move that unit. Just by having your Mamineer be the last moving defender, she can have taunt and apply her nullifier onto the enemy units that attack her. The incoming damage reduction is also highly valuable to protect that unit as well. The first large weakness of Amita is that concentrated fire has priority over it. If any of your unit is targeted by Vulcan, then Amita will not draw aggro. Amita also carries another large weakness in the terms of turn count. Amita can only last as long as 10 turns. Amita is quite solid in Arena to create defensive strategies without having to move a unit. While Amita has issues with Vulcan, Vulcan targets your first moving unit, so there are some methods of counterplay. With good use, Amita could be actually quite strong in Arena. Amita is also really annoying as a spell on your Guild War defenses, as it creates more variables to consider. If you combine an Amita buff defender along with other defenders, then your defense can become a mental clusterfuck to navigate. Overall, Amita is nice, but it's a luxury spell in my opinion. I don't think anyone really needs this spell, but if you built it up, it's pretty nice. The only content where I don't think it's good at is in Guild War attacks because it's a purely defensive spell. It's solid in all other contents. I'm giving Amita a B in terms of overall usefulness. In terms of investment, I'm giving Amita a C. Amita ideally wants to be in rank 5 as it unlocks its most useful class to target, which are defenders. Amita at rank 1 and 2 can apply taunt onto your mages, which works well with Helga. Applying taunt onto your warriors at rank 3 and 4 is alright for Jin or Seto. Rank 5 sees the most value overall as most defenders do want to draw aggro. Next on the list we got Thundering Vulcan. Vulcan will stun any class of unit for a set amount of turns. At rank 1 it activates before the 3rd turn, targets all enemy defenders, and lasts for 5 turns. This spell can be ranked up to target warriors or magicians, last longer, and activate sooner. Vulcan is pretty simple in that it applies the stun attack interference on all enemy class of units that you target. Like all spell debuffs, this ignores any immunities and applies regardless. Stun is particularly strong because if the enemy attempts to attack while they're stunned, they'll be unable to, and then it will be your turn again. If a mage attempts to charge up while stunned, they'll be unable to as well, and will pass their turn to the next ally. If the enemy is attempting a long mage chain, they will all fail to charge up, which is pretty devastating as their mages will be unable to attack until round 3. Vulcan is most powerful in Arena to lock out a specific composition. This spell can single-handedly counter a specific style of composition just by selecting which type of units you wish to stun. If warrior compositions are giving you issues, you could target warriors with the spell. If mage comps are troublesome, then you could target mages. Targeting defenders isn't entirely useful for the most part when it comes to Arena. Vulcan's main weakness is very short duration. It can only last a maximum of 7 turns, and under most circumstances, this will only waste 3 units turns at most, but practically it will only be 2 or even 1 unit. 7 turns is long enough however to stop a dangerous mage chain. Vulcan could be potentially powerful too in Guild War defenses, but it's less useful in Guild War attacks since the other spells generally have more value in that they help kill enemy units as opposed to stunning them. Turn count tends to be the main ways people drop stars in their Guild War attacks, and Vulcan does not do much to help in that regard. Overall, Vulcan is quite possibly the strongest regular arena spell in this set. I've given it an A in terms of overall usefulness and a B in terms of investment cost. Vulcan's ability to stun defenders isn't very useful, so rank 3 and rank 5 are the milestones to go for, where Vulcan can stun warriors and mages respectively. Rank 6 and rank 7 are almost worse than rank 5 as Vulcan activates sooner on those ranks, and you may end up with less turns where enemies can lose their turns. Last but not least, we have Executing Iron Mayden. Mayden is probably misspelled here, but whatever. The spell blocks all healing on units and targets aligned. The spell always activates before the first turn. At rank 1, Iron Maiden targets top and lasts for 12 turns. Ranking up the spell allows you to target other lanes while also increasing the duration of the spell. At first glance, this spell probably seems like the least impactful one since blocking healing is rather specific, but in this current meta where healing is pretty prevalent on every defender, it has a lot of value, especially in Guild War. First off, this spell blocks all healing. If a unit has a skill that allows them to recover incoming damage for example, it will not do anything, even if it's a permanent skill. Healing from supports will also be blocked off. Units that resurrect will get their HP set at 1, and units that gain max HP will only gain max HP, and their current HP will not change. Iron Maiden is almost exclusively a Guild War spell because it cripples powerful defenders with strong regenerative capabilities, the main culprit being Ledicrad. Ledicrad is often paired with Grandhilder, who provides some healing power and allows him to recover damage in between every damage source. With Iron Maiden on Ledicrad, he takes the full brunt of every damage source with no heals in between. If Ledicrad's Chain of Emptiness is popped, the max HP he gets will not affect his current health and he'll still be stuck at 1 HP. With Iron Maiden, Balze and Alec can effectively one-shot Ledicrad. This is why Iron Maiden is currently the silver bullet for Guild War. Now there may be a future where Ledicrad loses popularity due to new units being released or more counters being made in the future, but so long as healing is a prevalent issue in Guild War, Iron Maiden should always be considered. The main issue with Iron Maiden is that it only really addresses healing. Some compositions do not rely on it. Only high-end Guild War might see Ledicrad forms, which is why I would only recommend the spell to hardcore Guild War guilds and players. It's not very useful as an arena spell overall due to its lane targeting capabilities and the fact that it can miss some crucial units and lose a lot of value. I give Iron Maiden an A in terms of overall usefulness as it's insanely strong in Guild War. In terms of investment, I'm giving it a B. Iron Maiden is decent at most ranks. Rank 5 is all it ever needs to be as the 28 turn duration is very long and should be definitely enough in the situation that you focus Ledicrad down. So that's my take on the new spells overall. Here are the final 2 tier lists ranked with the prior spells as well. Remember that this is my opinion coming from someone who has done high level guild wars and won a few arenas and etc. If your opinion differs, then I'm glad you're at a point where you can have your own opinion. As always, feel free to leave a comment or a question. Thanks for watching.